It's Friday, July 18th, 2025. Welcome to Make It Make Sense. I'm Granthermes. So we have a regular episode today, not an interview like we usually get on Friday, because there were two huge and connected news stories from last night that we need to make some sense of. I'm going to hold that interview for next week. First, the House of Representatives passed the $9 billion rescission or take-backsies bill that I talked about in yesterday's episode, and stuffed inside that bill, or as a part of it, was the Epstein files. I'll talk about that in a second. And the other story here is all Epstein. The Wall Street Journal published an investigative piece with new details about how close Trump and Jeffrey Epstein were, and it is not good for Trump, although it could end up being a good thing for him. I'll explain in a little bit here. But first, make sure that you're following or subscribed to the show, whatever podcast app you listen to it on. Like, subscribe, hit the bell on YouTube for notifications if you're a watcher there. Sign up for the Make It Make Sense Substack. It's just $5 a month for paid subscribers to get access to all sorts of great bonus content. And as always, share the show on social media. It's Mims News Pod. That's MIMS News Pod, all one word on every platform. I am at Granthermes on X and Bluesky, and at Granthermes TV on everything else. You can tag me there. All right. Let's get to today's episode. Hey, listener, you know what the show is all about breaking down the news in a way that actually makes sense. No spin, just real reporting and smart conversations. And as an audience, you're sharp, curious, and engaged, and I know that you value where you spend your time and money. So if you're a brand, an organization, or a cause that aligns with truth, trust, and just cutting through the noise, then we want to partner with you. Whether you're launching a new product, pushing a policy, or you just want to get your message in front of an audience that values insight over outrage, let's make it make sense together. For ad rates, sponsorship packages, and custom campaigns, you can email ads@matchbookmediapod.com. That's ads@matchbookmediapod.com. Because the smartest conversations deserve the smartest partners. Okay, let's get on with the show. So last night, just after midnight or so, the House passed the $9 billion rescission bill, which I've taken to calling the take-backsies bill because it's Congress calling take-backsies on money they just approved 4 months ago. It will gut public media, which will lead to a ton of unintended consequences. And it also guts billions of dollars of foreign aid, which, as I talked about yesterday, experts think will cause the deaths of 14 million more people by 2030. And we as Americans and the rest of the world are going to have to reckon with those things, and probably in the not-so-distant future, too. But the bill, as it was making its way through the House, and just last night, Democrats had been pushing for the release of the Epstein files as a part of this bill by putting it up as an amendment. Now, a similar one failed earlier this week in the House, where not a single Republican said yes to releasing these files, although 9 didn't vote on it at all, and every Democrat voted yes to release the files. So naturally, when that happened, it put even more pressure on Republicans from their supporters, who have been increasingly confused and angry over this latest chapter in the Epstein saga, and Republicans decided to allow the passage of a non-binding resolution that would force the Department of Justice to release the Epstein files within 15 days as part of this massive take-backsies bill. Now, it's non-binding, so it doesn't have any real teeth, but it is a show of a want for transparency that, at least for now, Republicans are hoping will give them a little more time with their supporters. It's kind of like what Speaker of the House Mike Johnson said earlier this week on a prominent right-wing podcast.
Whether you would support either of those.
Yeah, I haven't talked to Marjorie or Anna about that specific subject, but I'm for transparency. We're intellectually consistent in this. Look, Reagan used to tell us we should trust the American people. I believe in that principle. I know President Trump does as well, and I trust him. I mean, he put together a team of his choosing, and they're doing a great job. It's a very delicate subject, but we should put everything out there and let the people decide it. I mean, the White House and the White House team are privy to facts that I don't know. I mean, this isn't my lane. I haven't been involved in that. But I agree with the sentiment that we need to put it out there. And you know, Pam Bondi, I don't know, when she originally made the statement, I think she was talking about documents, as I understood it. They were on her desk. I don't know that she was specific about a list or whatever, but she needs to come forward and explain that to everybody. I like Pam. I mean, I think she's done a good job. We need the DOJ focusing on the major priorities. So let's get this thing resolved so that they can deal with violent crime and public safety and election integrity and going after Act Blue and the things that the president is most concerned about, as we are.
So you get the idea. He's trying to walk a line there, but really is hoping to buy himself a little bit of time. Now, this bill was ostensibly a anti-funding bill, I guess we can call it, but it's strange that the Epstein thing bled over into this so prominently. And then that gets us to our second story, because just hours before the House passed that bill, the Wall Street Journal released a huge story. They'd been given access to a leather-bound book of private documents that was being kept by Ghislaine Maxwell, the woman serving 20 years in prison right now for helping Jeffrey Epstein traffic young girls. And in this, scrapbook of horrors was a birthday card from Donald Trump to Jeffrey Epstein for his 50th birthday. According to the Journal, this is what was in it. It contains several lines of typewritten text framed by the outline of a naked woman, which appears to be hand-drawn with a heavy marker. A pair of small arcs denotes the woman's breasts, and the future president's signature is a squiggly Donald below her waist, mimicking pubic hair. And then this is what that text said, and it is some of the weirdest stuff I have ever seen or heard someone writing in a birthday card. Inside the outline of the naked woman is an imaginary conversation written in the third person and sort of written like a script for a movie with a narrator and all. So here's what it says. Voiceover. There must be more to life than having everything. Donald. Yes, there is, but I won't tell you what it is. Jeffrey. Nor will I, since I also know what it is. Donald. We have certain things in common, Jeffrey. Jeffrey. Yes, we do, come to think of it. Donald. Enigmas never age. Have you noticed that? Jeffrey. As a matter of fact, it was clear to me the last time I saw you. Trump. A pal is a wonderful thing. Happy birthday, and may every day be another wonderful secret. So, first of all, ew. Second of all, what? What even is this? What are the certain things Trump and Epstein have or had in common? What is the wonderful secret? What even is this? Now, I know politicians and rich people are weirdos. I've met a lot of them, some good, some bad, always weirdos. But this is just next level strange. Now, in the piece, Trump's response at first was, quote, I never wrote a picture in my life. I don't draw pictures of women. It's not my language. It's not my words. Except that's not true. For years, Trump submitted drawings to be sold at auctions, mostly the skyline of New York, but to say he's never drawn a picture in his life is a lie. We also know that this picture was drawn in what appears to be a Sharpie marker, a heavy marker is what they said, which is Trump's preferred writing medium. That's how he signs every executive order, in a big, thick Sharpie. And then we learned that the president, the White House, and the Wall Street Journal had been going back and forth for a few days over this story, and Trump had promised to sue the Wall Street Journal and its owner, the Republican media tycoon Rupert Murdoch, who owns Fox News, if the Wall Street Journal ran this story. In several posts on Truth Social after this story came out, he said the editor of the Wall Street Journal, Emma Tucker, was told directly by Carolyn Leavitt and by President Trump that the letter was a fake. But Emma Tucker didn't want to hear that. Instead, they are going with a false, malicious, and defamatory story. In another post, he said, I told Rupert Murdoch it was a scam, that he shouldn't print this fake story, but he did, and now I'm going to sue his ass off. And in another post this morning, he said, I look forward to getting Rupert Murdoch to testify in my lawsuit against him and his, quote, pile of garbage newspaper, the Wall Street Journal. That will be an interesting experience, with 3 exclamation points. So Trump in these posts had claimed again that the Epstein files were somehow fabricated by Democrats, and if there was something so damaging in them, why wouldn't the Democrats have released them? And before I go on, I need to walk through some of that logic, because like I said in Tuesday's episode, for years, Trump had been saying that the Epstein files were full of damaging things to powerful Democrats who were part of a pedophilic ring of sex traffickers, all protecting one another, the rich and powerful, the deep state, a shadowy cabal that was denying MAGA voters their American dream. So that's why Trump, was going to be the one to release the quote-unquote client list and these Epstein files. He even gave what he called phase 1 of the files to prominent right-wing and far-right influencers earlier this year, which actually turned out to be a lot of redacted info that we already knew. But now he's saying that it's all a hoax, it's all made up, which would imply that he was calling for and doling out fake information to allies, or it's not fake as long as there's nothing incriminating in these files, or the Democrats were somehow hoping that he would get back in office so that they would stumble on these things and then release them later. The math just isn't mathing on this. And on his point about why the Democrats wouldn't release this, it's not really how the Department of Justice is supposed to work. It's not a political tool for the current president, no matter how much he thinks he was wrongly attacked or his supporters were wrongly targeted by the Department of Justice under Biden. It's an independent agency, and there's a lot of stuff in the Epstein files as well by his own DOJ's admission, which said the files do in fact exist, but they said that in those files there's lots of things that could be dangerous to some of Epstein's victims, like personal information or where they live. That's not what Trump is saying about these files, that they're too dangerous to release. He's talking and acting like somebody who was very worried about their own skin. And MAGA voters are upset. Here's a caller from this week on Glenn Beck's show, the far-right radio host. And sorry for the quality of this. The only way I could get this audio was from TikTok.
I feel really betrayed, and I feel really, really angry. We have a president who tells us to move on from Epstein because it doesn't matter. Are you guys still talking about this? Seriously? And yet he still talks about the 2020 election fraud. He talks about the Hunter Biden laptop. He talks about all this stuff from 5-6 years ago, and he tells us to move on from the Epstein trial or the Epstein case. People like me will not stop talking about this. I feel so betrayed and so angry. This is not what I voted for.
And that caller isn't alone. A lot of people right now in MAGA world are feeling really betrayed. And that brings us back to the Wall Street Journal story, because the birthday card, while weird and cryptic and sort of lets one's imagination run kind of wild, is really only those things. The bigger piece is that the Wall Street Journal, owned by Rupert Murdoch, the guy who built a right-wing media empire that helped propel Trump to the presidency not once but twice, ran this story. They are so confident in their journalism and what they've found that they're going to go toe-to-toe with Trump, risk alienating readers who support the president or read and watch their stuff, and go against Trump, who's been pretty successful lately in suing media companies. He got a $15 million settlement from ABC and a $16 million settlement from CBS just last week. In both cases, the things that he was suing over were at best sloppy reporting, but certainly wouldn't hold up in court. So for the Journal and Murdoch to put this out means they know they've got something. And in the journalism world, this kind of a story, the way that it was written, the way that it was set up, usually means there's more on the way. It's like an appetizer or a way to test the waters. It's not always, but like I said, it's a pretty big risk to take right now if all they have is this bizarre birthday card. So the question now is, what happens next? And honestly, the entire situation could be both good and bad for Trump. Let me explain. First, it's obviously bad on its face. This is the story that will not go away from him. He hasn't been able to divert or distract or push the story off to the side like he normally is able to. Like I said on Tuesday, and like you just heard from that caller, it's not going away because people loyal to Trump can't figure out why he's not doing the thing they voted for him to do, which was to be their savior in exposing the deep state. And the more he spins himself up online or in the press, the worse it looks. But this Wall Street Journal story could end up being the thing that pulls him out of that, because Trump's base loves when he takes on the mainstream media, and that's exactly what the Wall Street Journal is. You don't get much more mainstream than that. They'd like when he plays the underdog and the victim. He's at his strongest when he gets to be the fighter in his own narrative. And by saying that the story is fake, and by extension saying all the Epstein files are fake, he gets to start defining this news cycle again. Now, will that work with the supporters who can't see why he won't just release the files? Maybe. a lot of those people are pretty desperate to find a way to believe Trump, so they haven't been made fools of, but none of this stuff has seemed to stick just yet. And then there's one final thing about the entire Epstein Files story right now that I just haven't really heard a lot of people talk about, and it's that this story, this scandal, if we even want to call it that, is one of those things that show you a lot about how a president operates in a crisis. Every presidency, things that they couldn't see coming happen. Often those are disasters or things like recessions or something like, yes, sex scandals, but they're often things that fall outside of the carefully choreographed world of the White House or American politics. And it's in those moments we really get a chance to see who our leaders are and how they operate. And so far, his presidency has been exactly what he's wanted it to be, moving at breakneck pace on his agenda, getting the courts to do what he wants, getting Congress to get out of the way. He gets to be on the attack, and according to him and his supporters, the economy is good and his foreign policy is good. But this Epstein story has been a real broadside for Trump, and it's worth paying attention to how he has, is, and will respond to this, because it gives us some insight to how Trump's second administration and Trump as president for the second time around would respond to a crisis that would affect more than just him. Okay, that is it for today's episode. Please rate and review the show, whatever podcast app you listen to it on. Like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications on YouTube, sign up for the Make It Make Sense Substack. It's just $5 a month. And share the show on social media. It's Mims News Pod. That's MIMS News Pod, all one word on every platform. You can tag me as well. I'm at Grant Herms on Twitter and Bluesky, and at Grant Herms TV on everything else. Thank you so much for listening today. I'm Grant Herms, and I'll talk to you next week.